Hello guys and gals, David here, Central Cal Piper, and the reason for this video is I am doing a VR for Double O Pipes, Rick, and he asked us to tell about a story from our youth, one of our adventures. I've got a few. You may have heard this, but it's been a while, and if it has been mentioned before, it's in one of my videos, and I have no idea where, so I'm going to tell it again, just in case. So, out of the many adventures, the one that I'm thinking about is me and my friend Travis, who I've mentioned numerous times. We grew up together. Travis was the wild one. I was the more sane one, or at least the more fearful one, which kept me out of trouble. Travis, not so much. But one of the adventures we had, I just remember I was probably in junior high, and I was reading Tom Sawyer. I'm sure it was... I had read Tom Sawyer in the spring. I'm sure it was a school assignment. Maybe it was my early high school years. But I had to read Tom Sawyer, which I really enjoyed. So I was sitting in my chair in my living room. We lived at 225 Hickerson Drive, which was in Oildale, California, which is a little town outside of Bakersfield. And there were railroad tracks nearby. The Kern River was nearby. But I would sit in my chair, read the book, and look out. We had a bay window in the living room, and I would look at this massive tree, and it was, I don't know how big around, but it seemed like it was really massive when I was a kid, Probably not as big as I'm remembering, but it was really tall, had a lot of neat leaves, and I would just sit there and read Tom Sawyer and think about what it must have been like to live, on the Mississippi River in Hannibal, Missouri, and all that. So I read this book, and along about springtime, I started getting, spring fever, and I was desperate for an adventure. So, me and my friend Travis, we were always within walking distance from the river. We'd always walk down the railroad tracks, and there were a couple trestles, which I mentioned before. We'd get stuck on when the trains would go by and scream and all that. But it went over the Kern River, so. I remember one time I got this bright idea. There was a little, we called an island out in the river. It was probably 50 feet from the shore, or the bank of the river, basically. And it was just an island, had trees and shrubbery and bushes and all that. So I thought that would make an excellent place for a fort. Now, if I was in high school, I was obviously a late bloomer because I hadn't really discovered girls yet, and I was thinking about making an island on clearing an island of a Tom Sawyer adventure. So anyway, we gathered up our things, and we're getting a rake and a shovel and a hoe and all that. So we got all our things together, and we trekked on down to the river, which was probably about a 20-minute walk from my house, down the railroad tracks, and we may have taken a shortcut. There was a recreation center close by, and it had a big opening in the gate, and you could get right out to the river. So we may have gone through there. But anyway, went out there, got all of our things together in our shorts and flip-flops. So it must have been warmer in the spring. Of course, in Kern County, it gets pretty hot in the spring. So even in the early spring. So we had our shorts, and we were determined. So now, this channel that we were going to cross, I, for some reason, assumed it wasn't that deep, so I had a shovel in one hand and a rake in the other, or a hoe, and I was holding them up above my head, and Travis had something else. Well, he started walking over there, and all of a sudden, I hit a hole. So the first thing I did, of course, was let go of the shovel and the hoe, or the rake, whatever I had, and started treading water for dear life. I was never a good swimmer, so I thought I was going to drown, of course, so all I did was try to turn right back around and go back to the banks of the river. So that's what I did. My shovel, whatever I was carrying, was gone. My flip-flops were gone, and just me trying to make my way out of the river. So we never did clear that island. Man, I had big plans. We were going to go out there, clear out a spot, make us a fort, and have some real adventure, but we never got past the planning stage, obviously. We tried, but we didn't. So anyway, that's my little short adventure. that I was thinking of to retell. So Travis and I had lots of adventures. You've heard about a lot of those, but that was just one. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this, and Rick, congratulations on your 1,000 subscribers, buddy. And we'll talk to you all soon. God bless.